Yes.
Little Rock is actually a good location. We used to have a client there. Um, we had a few clients there, but we had a client in Little Rock with a
Yeah, I was the
cardio.
one.
Yeah, cardiovascular, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did cardiovascular too. It's called Atria Clinical Research, and we did cardiovascular. We did a lot of
Oh, that's
Alzheimer.
right. That's right. That's right. So how's everything going?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's a little wrong. I mean, Arkansas was not that affected with the coronavirus, so it did stay well for the first 2 months. But now, with everything opening up, it is increasing a bit, So, but
It's
definitely
increasing,
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing here, it's increasing in the West, in the California, Arizona. But I mean, we expect the numbers to go up if they're testing more people, so I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure out who to believe or how much emphasis should be placed on these numbers, but it's definitely something we're going to have to deal with for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So, but how about the sites? Are you guys doing okay in terms of the?
Sites are good. We're in startup mode for a lot of the sites.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot of CNS primarily. So right now, Chris and Monica are on a call with a sponsor for a study startup, site
Mhm.
selection visit, basically, for a postpartum depression study. There's a lot in the CNS space right now. There's a lot of studies in CNS, in gastro, respiratory. So we're seeing a lot of stuff in like basically in startup mode. And
Mhm.
this particular study that the reason they're not on this call is because they're on that call. It's planning to get started immediately. So they want to activate the sites virtually, and at some point the monitors are going to come and do the IMVs. I know yesterday when I went to a client's office in north of Los Angeles in this place called Ventura, there was a monitor there. There was a CRA there monitoring. So things are getting back, despite this increase in cases. Um, Looks like the industry is picking up right where it left off, and a lot of studies are in the startup mode and getting started. How about you? Are you seeing any studies in startup?
Oh yeah, same thing with us. We had almost 4 studies start up in the last 2 weeks, and in fact, we have a couple of studies in the next week. I mean, most of them are virtual startups, but one of them wanted to come to the site because we have never done any study with them before, so they
Hmm.
are coming next Tuesday. So
Are
yeah,
they
it's a lot of.
local? Is the CRA local to Arkansas, or are they traveling?
No, they're traveling. They're traveling from Florida, so it's kind of we have to be a
Wow.
bit careful.
You gotta quarantine them for. So yesterday when I went to this site's very proactive. Um, it's locked. You have to ring the bell. Then somebody came out, took my temperature, let me in, did the same thing to Chris, let him in, and then once you're in, you have to be like 6 feet away from other people. So there was another monitor there, so they couldn't put me in the same space. So I had to set up in the lobby, in the site lobby. They
Oh
brought a
wow.
table for me there to monitor. But I prefer that because I, if I'm gonna be monitoring, I don't want to be next to another monitor. I mean, I don't know where they came from, so it's better that way. And the lobby was not; they were not allowing patients inside. It was locked, so I felt more comfortable this way as for monitoring. And I'm sure sites are doing similar things across the country. Are you guys like, do you have a SOP for COVID, like as far as monitors and patients, or nothing?
It's exactly the same thing as you said. We do the same thing. We have a bell in the outside, so they have to ring the bell. They have to come in. We take a temperature check. These things, you just have to be careful because if there is, let's say there's an outbreak and the Department of Health might walk in and ask us, okay, like what are you guys doing? So we have got a sign-in sheet. Everybody signs in there, and we record all those things. There are like 6 to 7 questions which we ask. It's on the CDC website saying, did you have any fever? Did you have any pneumonia, cough, shortness of breath, loss of smell and taste? and any travel to the any kind of COVID areas. So once they are okay with that, and also we don't let two monitors come at one time. We always let one of them, only just one monitor.
Really? Okay.
So
So just
yeah,
one monitor at a time. How many studies do you guys have per year on average? I remember you guys were relatively busy when we were working with you guys.
yeah. We right now we have around 22 studies,
Wow.
but there are some GI trials which is probably not enrolling any patients. We have got UC and Crohn's. We have got four of those studies.
Mm-hmm.
So those are not. I mean, we did screen few patients. So other than
Yeah.
that, we do a lot of asthma studies. We have got three asthma studies, and with this COVID, we had to stop the PFTs on those patients. We still had the visits, but we didn't do the PFTs because we're kind of concerned with the employees. They were not very open to do that.
The
And
respiratory assessments, the one where they're breathing in the
yeah,
spirometer.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
I've done two asthma studies, and I can see how that could be problematic for the staff. Definitely. But you were seeing patients physically, where you were not doing virtual visits with patients. You were actually they were coming into the site.
Yeah, they were, because I mean most of the patients whom we had, we've been doing asthma for the last 5 years, so
Okay.
most patients are they know us really well. So not many of them decline to come to the site. So
Yeah, you guys have been a client for, or you guys have. It was a long time that you were with us, back in the days. I think when we
yeah,
were first starting our services. That's really good. I'm glad to see that you guys took off and established that kind of a market share. Right? I think Arkansas is a perfect area for research. Not too much competition, although maybe now it's different. I don't know. What is it like there?
no, I mean it's not, because Little Rock, I mean the population is not really big. It's maybe like 200,000. We have got three sites, and one site does exclusively psychiatry, so they don't need any other studies. And the other site is a primary care site. They don't do many trials. They're picking and choosing, maybe like five, six trials. So I mean, we used to do only asthma, COPD, but when we joined you, I think we got a lot of CNS trials, and so we did
Yeah.
start doing depression, Alzheimer's,
That's our bread
schizophrenia, and
and
those kind
butter.
of
That's
things.
our bread and butter. Are you guys still with us?
No, not now. So,
Okay, that's
but
okay. Yeah. Once the clients are in, we have like a team that gets studies, so I can't keep track of who is anymore, but they know who's the clients and getting the budgets done and all those kind of things. If you ever want to come back, we'd be happy to have you back.
oh yeah, definitely. And right now I'm working with BTC. You may have heard of them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
called
yeah.
BTC. So, I mean, they do send a lot of trials. Probably 80% of them are something which we can do. So it's
Okay.
you have to pick and choose. So,
Have
so I
have
I
you
think
seen have you guys seen any COVID studies?
yeah, we did sign up on few of them. They've not really told. It's just that they say, okay, seniors wants a feasibility. We just say, okay, we have patients, but they have not told whether it's a treatment trial or it's a vaccine trial. So we did
Hmm.
sign up, I think maybe around two or three, and
Okay.
there were
Yeah.
some hospital-based trials. We didn't sign up on those things, but it's only outpatient-based trials.
In Arkansas, something is intriguing about, like, I know Little Rock is not rural, but there's parts of Arkansas if you go further away. I'm always been intrigued by how, like, the more rural you can get, as long as you have some kind of medical infrastructure, like family care or family practice, maybe urgent care. I really
Mhm.
think those areas would be, basically, you can get any study you want because you have a research naive population and you have no competition because sponsors are always worried about the duplicate data. And by the way, anybody who's on, feel free to, this is a meetup, so talk about anything, chat, turn on your camera, turn on your mics, feel free to talk. I'm just talking with Dr. Kumar here, about his site in Arkansas. But I've always been intrigued by the more rural you can get, I think the more opportunities you can have. And it's always good to have that anchor in the big city like Little Rock. I've always been. We kind of tried a similar model here with in Southern California, but there's really not too much rural here anymore. You have to go to like
Mhm.
Central California, and we had a site in Bakersfield, which is more rural, that was getting a lot of the studies. I mean, so I think there's something there. I think something about having that setup that works.
I think the main challenge would be, I think you have discussed in the past, the PIs, because they are so busy in rural areas, in terms of primary care, they see around 60 to 70 patients a day, they're so busy and they are like, I can sign few things, but in terms of PI oversight, it's very hard to have them spend some time on this trial.
The oversight is the the name of the game. I mean, if they have enough clinicians like nurses to take on the majority of the work, then their oversight can become signing labs, reviewing AEs, just the basics. Having
Hmm.
a progress notes also helps. I mean, or at least co-signing a progress note of a nurse. So I've seen sites kind of do that with the very busy clinics, because you're still showing PI oversight in those cases. As it's funny, we were talking about this in the CRA Academy last week, but PI oversight is usually the biggest FDA finding, and it's because the PI is like what you just described, in a situation where they're delegating everything to the other staff, which is fine, but they're not documenting anything at
Hmm.
all. And that's not okay. I mean, you got to have your footprint, your fingerprint, whatever you want to call it, if you're the PI on the papers. Even if you have another, like an RN checking the labs, or another MD that's a sub-I, you still should co-sign the labs as a PI, or with the progress notes, or with the vital signs. I mean, those kind of things, it doesn't require that much time, but I understand what you're saying, because like, saying to do that and actually doing it are two different things, especially in an extremely busy place where the workflow is built basically to service the private practice.
Yeah.
And that's the risk. That's what happens. But those are also the best clinics to do research, because they have the
Hmm.
patients. They don't need to worry about recruitment. I mean, they worry about recruitment internally, not about getting, where are these patients going to come from? Most of them come from the private practice itself. So, yeah, that's interesting to hear that. But yeah, I think something about the rural communities, and it's something that the sponsors are trying to do also with virtual trials, because they know, hey, we want to have patients. We don't just want all the patients in our studies to be people from the cities. You know,
Hmm.
we want minorities. We want people from rural places that are maybe hard to get to the clinic. So the answers are either more virtual trials, which they're trying to do, or having more clinics in these rural areas, or as rural as you can get. Keeping them a little further away from the cities makes more sense.
Yeah, because also the population, when you see, there's a lot of patients with Medicare and Medicaid, and affordability is a big issue with them, so they are more willing to, in fact, some of them come from the rural areas, as you say, because the inhalers, if you know, it will cost around $300 $400 for that. So if they're part of the study, the study covers that. And travel is not a big issue, because it's maybe around 70 80 miles from here. So they do travel, they get paid for the travel also. So
Do you guys use Uber, or they just get reimbursed for their
so
own
we,
mileage?
if it is like within 20 miles, we use Uber. If it's more than that, we just ask them to bring in a receipt for the gas and we reimburse that.
Oh, good. That's good. What's your goal for the rest of the year? Are you expecting, I mean, having 20 studies right now is good. How many are in startup mode right now?
So startup, we have got four plus two, six of them.
Okay, wow. And then ongoing?
Ongoing, we have around 14.
Okay. And they were,
14.
I mean, basically none of them were impacted by COVID. The patients were coming in except for some assessments?
I mean, depression studies, we had some of them. Of course, the patients did not come in, but they let us do remote, like televisits for those patients, and
Yeah.
we could ship in the medication. So we did do that one. So,
Okay.
and COPD and asthma were the ones which, COPD, yeah, we did not have patients come here because we wanted to be very clear about that.
Right.
And we had a GERD study. So, GERD study, basically the endoscopy center was closed, so we could not do anything with that. So those we put a hold on that study. Now it's open. So,
And
but for that, the
for your
patients need to
depression
go.
study, did you guys ship the drugs or did the sponsor ship the drugs to the patient's home?
No, we ship the drugs.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Wow. And they were oral pills?
yeah, there are oral pills. So.
Yeah, see, and now for that study, patients are coming back or they're still not comfortable coming back?
No, they're coming. I think
Okay.
it's only like 2 months we had that issue, and the sponsor was willing. They're paying $50 for us to just ship the medication back and forth. I mean, it probably cost us around $20 to do a USPS priority shipping. So
Wow. Okay. So someone had to go to the post office
yeah,
and send them. Wow, that's a lot of work. And they didn't really care about the possible temperature excursion, or they kind of factor that in as uh
yeah. I mean, what they told was, you just have to record the temperature at the time of shipping. So what we say is, okay, well, at the time of shipping, it was 69 degree Fahrenheit. So
okay. Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I'm always curious because when they send the IP to the sites, usually with FedEx, they have a temp tail, and it's going to let you know if there's excursions. Obviously,
mhm.
sponsors were not prepared for that to do it at that level to the individual sites. So yeah, like a lot of the FDA guidance and the SOPs that the sites and sponsors revised. I'm now that I'm starting to monitor some of these sites, I am seeing deviations, but they're due to COVID. Just like in your studies where you didn't do the assessment. You know, due to COVID. It's still deviation, but they have a new category now for COVID deviations. So it's interesting how this is going to play out because things are, like you said, getting back to normal. But if we have another like second wave and people are getting scared to come out again, which is as of this video, June 24th, we're starting to hear numbers going up. So it'll be interesting to see if this virtual trial, having staff go to the patient's home to give the drugs, because that's what we did at one of my sites. We do psych. We sent the coordinator to the facilities to give the meds, and then we found a way to draw the blood from the facility instead of them coming to the office. So as long as you revise your SOPs, I think you can do it, but I'd be curious to see how much of this will last going forward because now you're revising your SOPs. Technically, you can do this even when COVID is not really an issue,
Yeah,
if that's the case.
yeah, because some patients they like this. They said I would rather
Yeah,
do a televisit than come to the site. So
patients like this because it's more convenient. Um, I don't know if the sites like it. It's mixed. And then I know CRAs don't really like it. The CRAs prefer to monitor on site.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think some elements of this will continue going forward. What do you guys? Anyone else on here? There's a few people on. What do you guys think? Feel free to turn on your camera or turn on your mic or just chat in the chat box. Um, it's being recorded, but not going anywhere crazy. Just YouTube and the podcast. But I've been chatting with Dr. Kumar. He's a site owner out of Little Rock, Arkansas, and they're doing a really good job with the studies they have. So anybody else? What are you guys thinking?
Hey Dan, it's Pete here.
Hey Pete, how's it
How you
going,
doing?
man? Zyme
Hey, people.
Wire,
I was looking
Zyme
at
Wire
news.
to the fullest.
I was looking at my all the different events going on and everything. I thought how can I understand what's going on out there at the site level the fastest? And I thought I'm going to go to Dan's meetup
Well,
because
you
you
just
got it.
heard from Dr. Kumar. I mean,
Yeah, that
you
was
know,
fascinating. Actually, that I've actually been on our Slack channel. I've been posting some of your quotes to my team, just some of the highlights here. So it's
oh,
been
good.
really
Thank you.
useful.
Thank
One
you.
of the I'm just going to comment um, from the well, maybe a question for you guys. How are you seeing the split from the vaccine work to other? So you mentioned GERD, Kumar or Dr. Kumar. Um,
Mhm.
how are you guys seeing it from like those that do vaccine work? Like, um, are you seeing an uptick on that? Are you actually getting the COVID studies? Are you um, kind of
So
diverting
we
your
did,
resources to that?
so we did sign up on few studies. Basically they have never told us exactly the entire. They just say, okay, look, one of the sponsor is looking for sites for a COVID study. Do you want to sign up? It's just an open thing. So we just have to say, oh, yeah, yeah, we can do that because. And they say, do you have patients with COVID? We look at the Arkansas, I mean Little Rock COVID population, and I have around 8 to 10 physicians whom I work with. So, of course, right now nobody is seeing those patients because everybody has a warning on the door saying if you have any symptoms, please don't come in. But potentially there are patients who have developed a COVID after they have left the clinic. So we do know about those patients. So when they are right now, they finish their quarantine and they come back to the clinic when they're okay. So those patients may go on this vaccine trials.
Hmm.
And basically there'll be a lot of asymptomatic patients. One of my friends, he's in Atlanta, so they're doing this trial where if at all they have one of these symptoms, like let's say fever, pneumonia, or sore throat, or loss of smell, so they can walk into the clinic and they get a sample taken from the patients. So they don't need to have like a full-blown symptoms. So I mean, they want
Hmm.
around 600 patients on that study. So something like that
Wow.
would be useful, because there are a lot of asymptomatic patients walking around, and we didn't take any studies with symptoms just because of the staff issues. They were kind of concerned, so I didn't want to put them at risk. So I just said that we won't take any studies if there is symptom is an
But the
issue. That
opportunities are out there. You think like as a
oh
site,
yeah,
the opportunities are out
yeah.
there to get them if you
Mhm.
wanted to. Yeah.
Hospital-based studies, there are 5, 6 studies which they approached us, but we didn't want to do that as of now.
Hmm. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did a survey. Dan, I don't know if you were in that, but our client base is across the whole pharma and biotech spectrum. And we did a survey initially with what people thought the impact would be. Um, so I guess it was like maybe we had about 300 respondents, which is pretty good, but everything from manufacturers to labs to everything, every part of the pharma supply chain. And it was clinical sites that actually we're predicting the low, like of all of our types of clients, clinical sites were projecting the largest financial impact. Like this was like probably day, I don't know, it was like March 27th maybe. So like right in the height of the uncertainty. So it'd be interesting. We're thinking now, well, we should resurvey them and see, like, did you actually see that financial impact as a clinical site, or did you end up doing better maybe in some cases,
I
depending
mean,
on
it
if they
makes
do
sense.
vaccine work. But
It makes sense that that was the fear. I mean, we're as a sites, we're paid based on enrollment. And if anything is threatening the enrollment, that's can immediately
yeah, yeah,
impact the bottom line. As far as sponsors are concerned, they're probably going to spend less because they only pay as sites enroll. But in the long term, they're probably going to lose more if there were significant impacts because all this data they can't do anything with it now with all these deviations. So it's like short term and long term questions. But I think they both were in danger of losing quite a bit. I don't think, but I would be interested in those survey results because I know some sites have closed, but those were sites that were not really managed well even before COVID. Um, so the majority of sites did not close. The majority of sites were able to weather the storm. I know there were furloughs. I know there were, which is, back to Dr. Kumar's point, And your point also with the vaccine studies, I mean, sites are being very picky about what studies they're bringing on. There's so many COVID studies now, especially the sites that are capable of doing that. They're more concerned about wanting to lose or not wanting to lose their staff, because the turnover at the site level has increased a lot, and even at CRO levels, and it's interesting, those people that got furloughed like in March, they got jobs by April at competitor companies. So you don't
Yep.
want to lose staff right now. I think things are stabilizing again, but back in March, I know a handful of people got furloughed, and then in a month got a job that was better, and a job that put them further up along their career path, that they that was the direction they wanted to go anyway. So it turned out that the bad news for them was actually great news for them.
Yeah. So, Molly, I don't want to hijack this.
How's it
I
going,
Go
Molly?
ahead.
How's everything?
I was just going to ask you if you're planning to run that survey again. I just dug it up and was interested to know if Zymewire would run that again to kind
Well,
of
we
refresh.
should. Yeah, I think we absolutely should. Yeah, I was a little cautious about like where people surveyed out.
I know.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of surveys at first there, like, hey, are you gonna do this? You gonna do that? And I think we got in right at the right time. People hadn't done too many surveys that we got, so we sent it to we got about 2,000 users, and so it was a pretty high response rate, right?
Yeah, that
300
is.
or 2,000.
That's an
But
amazing response rate.
the part when I talk to the our clients across the supply chain, that I think what people underestimated was the number of companies working on COVID treatments. Like you can see conceptually to be like, oh yeah, that'll be a hot area, obviously. But I mean, there's about I think there's like over 700 biotech companies working on COVID.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing
you
because
put that across everything. It's a lot of business.
we obviously use Zymewire and clinicaltrials.gov to look for studies, and we noticed we have teams that use Zymewire and use clinicaltrials.gov to look for studies, and when this stuff was starting, you just saw the spike in the number of new trials, and you're like, what are these trials? Well, most of them were COVID studies. I mean, those are the only studies that were starting around March and April, because everything else that was planned for starting in March and April are starting now, more or less. So yeah, like the sites that were able to take advantage of those, like I said, they're turning studies away because they don't want to scare their staff. Some of these studies are a little questionable as far as how they're actually going to get patients or even IRB approval. I've looked at some, discussed with physicians, and said, how is any IRB gonna approve this? But yeah, they were trying, and there's tons of those studies out there. What we're doing some COVID treatment studies, not so much vaccines, but like different treatments for COVID. So um, it'll be interesting to see. I have a CRO where we're having in the fourth quarter of this year, it's supposed to start another COVID study, and hopefully we can use our virtual trial for that because they're actually interested in some of the virtual trial services that we offer, mostly remote healthcare workers going to the patients and then using a telehealth platform to capture some of the data. So interesting times, guys. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. Have you? Maybe another question that's probably on a more not the positive side of more studies and all that, but are you seeing any difference in the psych studies and that patient population? Because I mean, so I'm based in Canada. I think Molly, maybe you know that, and Dan, you know that from it's a little different perspective on it, like from seeing what's happening. I mean, it's a different healthcare system, but one of the things I've heard is the levels of I think in both countries, just from like the levels of depression going up and the impact to mental health on people being isolated and having less social contact. Are you seeing any of that borne out in the like kind of the study flow that you're seeing, or the patient populations, or anything like that?
Yeah, so it's crazy because Monica, she can't be on this call because she's on a depression site selection visit right now. I mean, literally what's happening right now. So we have this theory, and we saw this after the '08. the Great Recession, because I was in business back then too. So I saw this, and we saw after the Great Recession, 6 months after, you started seeing more people with MDD coming through, for obvious reasons. So we're expecting similar. I don't think it's happened yet. I think it's still too soon. But like within that 6 month mark, you're gonna get a bunch of newly diagnosed people with MDD taking antidepressants, anti-anxiolytics. But like a lot of these studies don't allow newly diagnosed. They want you to have that diagnosis for like a year or two. But we are seeing more studies. CNS was hot even before this pandemic, and it slowed down a little, like everything else. But we're seeing an uptick in like the site selection visits now for the CNS studies. So we will have a bunch of people, unfortunately, diagnosed. I think with MDD, GAD. Not so much schizophrenia and bipolar, but MDD, GAD. That's what we saw in '08 after the Great Recession as well. So, but again, the sponsors, when they make these IE criteria, they usually want a history of MDD. They don't necessarily want newly diagnosed. And they also tend to exclude a diagnosis based on an event. They want it to be, that's why they ask for a history, because they're actually trying to eliminate the people who were laid off and now they're depressed. They actually want people with MDD diagnosis, and they want to see like at least a year of that. So even if we do see that, unless those people remain with that diagnosis for like a year, I don't think that's going to impact recruitment necessarily for MDD studies.
Wow, that's really insightful, Dan. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I forget the term for it, but there's something called like event-driven depression, or there's like a clinical term for it where it's not really MDD, but a doctor can give the diagnosis so that the meds can be covered because it's still depression, but it's not major depressive disorder. So there's a difference there. Same thing with anxiety, right? Like you can be anxious for like a week, maybe even a month, but it's not necessarily generalized anxiety disorder.
So Dan, I had had a question for you. So when you said that you're using the was it a home health thing where you send the staff to? Is it your staff or do you have you hired
Yeah.
a third party to do
Well,
that?
we subcontract, but we've partnered with mobile phlebotomists, and there's another vendor we use for mobile healthcare workers, uh, and they're nationwide, so we can send them to patients' homes. But we charge at the sponsor level. We haven't done it at the site level yet, because it's not scalable enough. But at the sponsor level, it makes sense for us to do it. And then we also plug in the telehealth through the clinical scoop that we launched last year. Uh, you guys will hear more about that soon, but there's a lot of tech in that company that I'm involved with, and so we got the e-health, the telehealth. That company actually started and is still doing telehealth. So now we're trying to find a way to get that into clinical research when it comes to these more of these hybrid trials. It's not fully virtual, but they're hybrid trials.
So that staff who goes to the patient's home, do they have to do GCP and all the training and everything?
They don't. So the FDA actually released guidance on this like last month or maybe 2 months ago now. I read it twice, and as long as they are just drawing blood from what I read, they don't need to do GCP training, but we have ours do it anyways, just to be safe. I mean, GCP, it's like 4 hours maybe at the most to do the training.
Yeah.
So, we'll pay them to do it, and just to be on the safe side.
So do they have to be on the delegation log with all the protocol training and all that
They
stuff?
don't, but if they're giving the meds, so if I have a nurse, so if I have a phlebotomist that goes to draw blood, but I alternate, so it's not always the same one. I don't need to I can just put a note to file. This is the company we're using, and these are the people on their CVs. They don't necessarily need to go on delegation log, but if a nurse is going to inject or like do an infusion, we do need to add them. I'll pull up the guidance. There was guidance on this. I'll send it to you guys. because the FDA released this guidance. Oh, here we go. Molly already put it in the chat. There's the direct link. Yeah, let's see when this came out. I think this came out like in May.
Yeah, it was in
right?
May, but that's not the link to the FDA. I work for a company that provides a learning platform, if you will, and we built out a bunch of extra resources around. We have the guidance in there, so you can actually click on that link, and it's got a lot of other resources from a few ClinOps execs.
That's
Some
cool.
other insight. It's just got a lot of extra resources and it's free. So I figured I'd share that because it might be a little more consumable than the
Thank you.
whole.
I'll put the link.
Was
I'll
so
put the link in
long.
the show notes too. Underneath this video, you'll see that
Awesome.
link that Molly shared, and in the podcast. You know, Molly, yeah, because you're the expert on this. I was surprised when the first guidance came out from the FDA, and then this one that came out in May. They're basically saying, "Hey, you do whatever you need to do, guys. Like,
Yeah.
we're not gonna hold you back." So they're very lenient when it comes to this. Like, basically, sponsor decision and PI decision.
I think they have to be, but I also was speaking with someone recently who has been in clinical research his whole career. Now he's working in a consulting capacity. And what he said was there's been a bit of a personnel change at the FDA, and some of the new personnel are much more innovative thinkers. They're thinking more about what responsibility does the government have to ensure public health. And so his feeling, and I agree with him, is that some of these changes that that may surprise us are related to just the severity of where we are. We have to keep technology advancing. We have to keep treatments advancing, and the only way to do that is to relax some of these older requirements so that we can keep research going.
I think the industry, during April, we were doing these meetups every day. Jeslyn, who's on, was on like all of them, so she knows. But the initial tendency was to try to compare this to like the Great Recession, and it's totally different because, like I said, people were getting furloughed and then hired in the same month, and we didn't really see the studies stop. The surveys kept coming throughout the whole thing. So it's like the industry always expected, hey, within 3 months, we want to have all these surveys so that we can start activating these sites. And during the Great Recession, it was not the case. People were getting furloughed. There was no end in sight. Studies were being dropped. And it was, in many ways, it was a less scary time because there's no virus. But in other ways, it was more scary, I think, financially. At least for our industry. I know other industries here got decimated with hospitality, but I'm talking just clinical research. I think '08 was much scarier than 2020, at least as far as like business in clinical research is concerned.
Yeah, maybe much more of a financial, like in 2008, it was less money floating around, less funding to companies, bigger impact to you guys.
Probably.
Level.
Yeah, because '08, we had a bubble in like '05, '06, but it was primarily real estate bubble. Now we're seeing more of like a VC bubble that was emerging like from 2012 until 2020. And I think that VC bubble popped. But a lot of these biotechs were getting financed, and vendors and startups, not so much sites, but I think the sites were benefiting from the activity. And I mean, even if there's a second wave, I think the industry is going to continue doing these studies, at least from the indications I'm seeing.
I got it, Jeff, but thanks, Dan, for hosting, and great to meet everyone else.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. Appreciate it, man. ZymeWire is the way to go.
Molly, I'll ask the team about your question too. We'll try to do another survey, at least.
Yeah, do it.
People.
I would love it. We're trying to do a survey now, so I understand the whole surveyed out. But yeah, it would be interesting. We also use ZymeWire, so.
ZymeWire is an amazing tool.
All right, I'll leave there. It's going to get awkward if I stick around.
That's a good way to leave. That's a great way to leave.
See you guys.
Thank you, Pete.
See you, Pete.
Jeslyn, what's new with you? What's going on? It's nice to see you again.
Hey y'all, same story, different day, trying to survive the pandemic. I've actually been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching with my people in my database. I've seen as recruitment has been paused temporarily for the industry, at least from my side of things. I've been focusing on just speaking with the people in my database, helping them be better professionals, learn how to go after the job they want, giving them one-on-one coaching, helping them with resume. I've actually been working with Ashley a lot, and we kind of have been tag teaming a lot of our clients. So I talk with them about how to decide what jobs they want, how to go after if they want a CRA job, CRC. I coach them on how to determine that, set goals, how to aggressively pursue that. More importantly, how to interview for that. And then with Ashley Margot, she handles their resume building, branding them on LinkedIn. So we've been tag teaming and trying to get people better prepared for the job markets when clinical research gets back into full bloom, whenever that will be.
Yeah.
So yeah, just
Ashley
been
Margot's
working with
amazing.
them. Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah,
That
you know
she is.
she's a CRA now. She got hired during
Yes,
this pandemic, you know?
exactly. So I was so excited for her. So I've been working with her and trying to get people, to be better branded online and to present themselves more appropriately when they do go to meet the CROs and pharmaceuticals for jobs.
That's amazing. I think that you need to do that because people don't think branding is for them. They think it's like for
No.
Apple or for Google. Uh, but it's those companies have been branding there since they started. Like branding
Hmm.
is your LinkedIn profile. It's what you post. It's
Right.
if you tweet what you tweet. It's how your CV looks. Like it's the things I
Exactly.
talk about on the Patreon channel too. Thanks for joining, by the way, Jeslyn. The Patreon. That's what we teach people how to do.
Oh,
Write an
yes.
ebook. I mean, everybody's expert on something. Even in
Yeah.
within research there's so many niches here. Like you can write an ebook, like 100 pages, put it on Amazon, not necessarily for the money. You could put it for
No.
99 cents, but to get the attention. Here's a true story.
Right.
And here's a true story. I have a book. It's 33 bucks. It's not 99 cents. It's 33 bucks. Comprehensive Guide to Clinical Research. Yesterday, I had a Zoom meeting with a guy, a sponsor from Europe. He said, I went on Amazon. I'm not making this up. I didn't know about you. I went on Amazon and I searched clinical research because I wanted to see what was there. So they're using Amazon as a search engine.
Mm,
People don't think about that. Okay, I bought the book. We make
nice.
and now I learned you have a CRO because I put the ad in the book. Here's my CRO, and we need help with this thing in Mexico that we're doing. So, you know, like that's branding. Everybody can do that. It's like it's not this crazy thing to write a book. I mean, if you want to write like a big book, it's a little harder, but you could write like a little pamphlet, 20 pages, 30 pages. That's
Hmm.
branding. Now you're putting that on Amazon. You can give it away for free on your blog in exchange for an email address. That's the name of the game. There's no reason why individuals can't do this either. No reason. So I think you and Ashley are doing a really good job teaching people this. And
Okay.
this is why I started my
Yes.
Patreon. I don't want to dilute my YouTube channel with this kind of stuff because I'm not really
Yeah.
a branding guy. But people that are interested in learning, I have a Patreon for that. And we explain how to do that. We have these monthly masterminds too. It's only $5 a month. $5 a month, that's it. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely interesting times.
So this is $5.
Pandemic to be over.
That's your $5 right there. But that's good too because it gets you energy. When I drink caffeine, that's $5 well spent. Because when I don't I try not to drink too much caffeine. I get too excited now. It's not good for my blood pressure. But that ROI on that $5, you know how many ideas I get when I drink like a lot of coffee? I mean, there is true ROI there. It's also bad ROI on my blood pressure. So I stopped. But the
Yeah.
ROI there, I come up with some good stuff while I'm on caffeine. Also, some good podcast episodes.
Interesting.
So yeah, thank you, Jeslyn, for
Nice.
doing that personal branding and the recruitment stuff. As far as job recruitment, I'm still seeing a lot of recruiters reaching out, asking, hey, if there's any students that graduate that want to, talk to us. So I think the demand is there for job seekers. It's just
Mm-hmm.
because of the furloughs, I think there is good talent that has experience, like has a good amount of experience. So the sponsors
Right.
are and the recruiters are looking for those people, but those people are going to get hired. I mean, if they haven't been already. So we're still going to need new people joining the industry. We're still going to need fresh blood, just like we need new sites and new investigators because we need new patients. We're going to need new CRAs, new coordinators. I mean, there's not enough to go around. So you're
Yeah.
doing a true service to the industry by helping these people learn about the industry.
Yeah, indeed, because like I said, one of the major things I've noticed is, especially for those of us who are trying to get industry, the information we have is really just restricted into the hands-on clinical research knowledge, but then they don't have the experience that's required for the CROs and pharmacists for them to interview at least. So there's that gap to where they have the working knowledge of clinical research, but they don't have the experience. So now the question of trying to get them into building experience, getting them to market themselves appropriately, getting them to brand themselves appropriately, how to network with these people. So the jobs are there, especially now with this pandemic and with so much furloughing going on and laying off coming on. It's a little harder for those of us who are new just because we don't quite meet the criteria. But then, like you said, those who are experienced, they definitely have their pick because they already have that industry experience. So those of us who have that are able to get better opportunities between furloughs. But for those who are trying to
Absolutely.
get in, there is a bit of branding and marketing, for lack of a better word, hustling that needs to be done. And that's what I'm trying to get for the newbie get brand markets and present yourselves appropriately as clinical research professionals. And that's where the key is for the people I work with.
I agree. And once you're in, you're in. And once you're
Oh,
in,
yes.
the benefit of being a generalist has never been more important. I've been talking about being a generalist for years. Most people, I think it's half and half, not most, but half and half agree. The other half were giving me a hard time for it. And now almost nobody's giving me a hard time for that because they're like, you're right. The coordinators that got furloughed at my site were the ones that refused to learn how to do patient recruitment and budgets, and the ones that did, guess what? They're the ones that were kept. Uh, so,
Yeah.
uh, but even if you are just a specialist, if you have your experience, even a year, you can basically name your job in this industry. Uh, I know somebody, uh, Carlos, for the people who know, he comes on the videos, but usually he'll make my quotes for Instagram. So he's been a
Mm-hmm.
coordinator at my San Bernardino site for like 6 years. Really good. We got him,
Nice.
we trained him. He came in research naive. Now he's obviously super experienced. He had to move. He moved to Ventura, which is like 3 hours north of LA even. So there's no way he could
Mm.
have kept his job. So
Yeah.
I talked to the PI yesterday in Ventura. A lot of people know who she is. Dr. Hazen. She does
Yeah.
microbiome stuff.
Correct.
I mentioned the fact that this is what happened to him. In 5 minutes, she's like, "Hey, have him send me his CV." Before the day was over, he was hired. So
Nice.
getting your foot in the door is the most important thing because the demand is there. The demand is always going to be there for study coordinators, with the exceptions of times like the Great Recession. But
Mm.
even that was like 8 months, 9 months, 12 months maybe, and then people came back. So generalists, very important. But just getting started is important. And the way you do that is through your brand, personal brand, or if you're a site like Dr. Kumar, business brand. Or build yourself as the face of the business, the figurehead, because it's all the same thing. No matter what you do, it's branding.
And you raise an interesting point that I coach my clients with is there is power in connecting and leveraging your relationships. A lot of people get into whether it's volunteer or into networks like this or webinars, and they do not connect with people, they do not network with people, even on something as available across the world as LinkedIn. A lot of people do not go on there, they do not network with people, they do not connect with people. And that's one thing I coach my clients to do is, hey, LinkedIn is still a networking site. You go on there and genuinely connect with people and network with them, build a relationship with them, because these are the people in the future when you do need that job, when you do need that referral, when you do need information as to who's hiring and what you need to do to get into any CRO or pharmaceutical. These are the people that will come to your rescue if you've built a relationship with them, if you've connected with them, and if you network with them. So that's an interesting point that you raised that I wish everyone would know. Learn to connect and network with people. It's a lifeline.
I mean, yeah, that's real. Like, look at Molly. And by the way, I love the cat, Molly. We got to make the cat like the brand
She's
for
really aggressive.
really. I have
Oh,
one
Aggressive
too.
with love.
good girl.
She's aggressive
Good
with
girl.
loving.
Okay, good. But yeah, I was gonna say, look at Molly. She's on here. We're talking about something randomly. She had no idea we're gonna talk about this. She put a link. I'm gonna put it underneath the video and the podcast, and people are gonna go check out her company now,
Sweet.
Archmedics, because she networked. I mean, this networking's not anything complicated. It's just being
Nope.
there, being a resource, and that's it. And then obviously talking to as many people as possible without being
Right.
spammy about
Mm-hmm.
research and about what you do.
I really
That's the
just
name of the
came
game.
to listen to y'all talk and learn and just learn more. So that's why I came.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We
Nice.
were gonna do these like once a month. We were doing it every day for like over a month.
Yes,
Jeslyn was on like almost all of them. That was crazy.
indeed.
It got very
I loved
tiring,
it though.
Jeslyn. I loved it too, but it got very tiring like by week 3.
Yeah.
But the once a month, I like the once a month meetups too, and it's good for all of us to
Yeah.
network, get to know each other better. I do have a Slack group too that we can put everyone into this group. So just message me if you want to be in there, and I can put you in that Slack group as well.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, like, what does Molly, do you have a site or what does she do?
I'm
She
head
does.
I'm head of marketing at a company called Archimedics. We have a platform that's meant for delivering digital content, like anything that you do around site startup, all of the training that you do, and especially things that you did in person before. It goes beyond virtual training. It's more of a providing the ability to drive people to make decisions, to reflect on information, and actually apply it to the field. So I've been in the clinical operations industry about half my career, but it always helps for me to listen to people in the industry. That's why I'm here. Still
Yeah, here it is.
Okay. So
Archimedics.
who are your clients? Are they usually CROs and
CRO,
sponsors?
yeah, CROs and sponsors primarily. We also have a CME side of the business where we've done a lot of continuing medical education over the years. So, but this is an area that we're growing in, but CROs primarily.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
nice
good
name.
stuff. You guys are doing a good job with that too.
Oh,
So yeah,
thanks.
I mean,
We're
we're gonna.
overhauling a lot.
Oh, it looks good. I just shared it, and I'll put the links because you shared something really good of value for everybody. And yeah, I mean, we'll do this every month. Next week, we're gonna have a webinar too.
Awesome.
I forgot what the topic is, but I'll be sending an email this week about that one. So that'll be on Tuesday. It's a good topic. I just can't remember what it is. But I guarantee you it'll be good. I guarantee. At least for somebody. I don't know who, but it'll be good.
Yep.
But thank you guys so much for coming on, and looking forward to the webinar. Looking forward to connecting with everybody more online and sharing and being a resource for one another. So thank you all for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thanks,
doing
Sam.
this as well and
Thank
creating
you.
this platforms and forums for us all to come together in clinical research. So thank you, Dan. We really appreciate you.
Thank you
Yes, thank you.
guys. Have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you guys, I'm sure, somewhere on social media,
Indeed.
if not the webinar on Tuesday. So take
All
care,
right.
guys.
Yeah. See you
Likewise.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.